80 years later, we are putting people in the LGBTQ plus community in this all over again. We don't want you in our military. You can't even go fight for your country. I, a historian who has studied history in the United States, that is my bread and butter, knew nothing about this. I had no idea that there was a Lavender Scare. That
it's the same thing happening again. And as alarmed as we should have been, we need to be equally or more so alarmed now.
A little different than the Red Scare, right? You would think of lavender, you see red. Red almost kind of means danger. Lavender kind of means, it's a calming influence. No.
Yeah.
Not this. Not. So the Lavender Scare was a period of intense anti-LGBTQ plus discrimination in the United States federal government, spanning roughly from 1947 and 1975, during which thousands of gay and lesbian employees were fired or forced out due to widespread fears that they possessed a security risk and a moral threat. Now, when I just say that, why does that sound familiar? Maybe because we just heard this threat from Pete Hegseth, the so-called Secretary, not of Defense, but the Secretary of War.
Mm-hmm. They don't even know what that means. He was a National Guard. You don't even know what that means.
You know what else he was? He was a National Guard, guarding detainees at Guantanamo Bay.
Great.
After September 11th.
Mm. Oh, so
yeah,
you can let your imagination run wild on that, right, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. All right. So the Lavender Scare emerged during the Cold War, like I said, alongside mainly commonly known the Red Scare. Executive orders and loyalty programs initiated by President Truman, not Trump, Truman, okay, in 1947, and then expanded in 1953 by President Eisenhower's executive order, authorized the investigation and dismissal of federal employees suspected of sexual perversion, which was a coded reference to homosexuality. Officers claimed that LGBTQ plus individuals were susceptible to blackmail and therefore security risks, despite a lack of supporting evidence. So what did they do? Between 5,000 and tens of thousands of federal employees lost their jobs, resulting in public humiliation, financial ruin, and sometimes tragically suicide. And these were all tied directly to these purges. The government's actions also contributed to a broader societal discrimination, including school board firings, suspected gay teachers, landlords refusing to rent to queer tenants, and media spreading sensationalized stories conflating homosexuality with communism. Being publicly identified as LGBTQ plus made continued employment or personal safety very difficult during this time. Does this sound familiar to you?
Yeah, very much.
Does it sound like, is it 80? Nah, it's more than 80. Nah, it's 80. 80 years later, 80 years later, we are putting people in the LGBTQ plus community in this all over again. Pete Hegseth just said it yesterday. We don't want you in our military. You can't even go fight for your country? But back then, it couldn't work for federal jobs.
Right. And you realize that this ridiculous notion that they're a security risk because they can be blackmailed is only because they exist in a society that demonizes them for who they are.
I don't mean to laugh, but you ain't speaking nothing but the truth there.
How about we change the way society treats its members? How about we do that? No, but this is exactly, so the Lavender Scare was for queer folks like writ large. Hegseth is specifically targeting transgender individuals and barring them from service and gender affirming medical procedures have been paused. So, and then he's also, of course, criticizing DEI initiatives and LGBTQ plus representation in the military. So, very, very similar. Very, very similar. A lot more targeted this time. Because if you're black and trans in the military, goodness.
Well, they learn, right? They learn from their hatred, because what
Yeah.
happened is through this scare grew so many different activist groups for the LGBTQ plus community. I always, the L and the B and the G and the T, they be screwing me up. My
Yes.
tongue get tongue tied. But so many different groups grew out of this to fight for their rights. They
Mhm.
even, which they should have, combined it with the civil rights movements of the 60s to counteract the discrimination that they were facing, and got laws passed so that you couldn't discriminate based on sexuality or gender.
Right.
So now they're attacking specifically transgender, and listen to the coded words that they are trying to do. They got boys playing girls sports. Give me 2 cases where that's the case.
Yeah.
Give me 2.
I'll
They
wait.
got they're gonna harm the women when they go into the women's bathroom. Women don't have to necessarily be afraid to be harmed there, because there's plenty of heterosexual men that are out there assaulting women every day. Matter of fact,
Right outside, standing right outside the bathroom. You ever been to a club?
oh my God. Matter of fact, if you look at any statistical measurement that there is, women's overwhelming predator are heterosexual males that are not trans or gay or anything like that.
Nope.
Matter of fact,
cishet men.
Who are the largest perpetrators that are pedophiles?
Cishet men.
So what they're trying to do is say, don't look over here. Don't look over here. Look over there.
Mm-hmm.
Look over there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're the good ones, they're the bad ones because they're different, because I look like you.
Right. Right.
Like, don't be afraid of me. I look like you. No. And this has been going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, I'm giving a history lesson. I know sometimes y'all like it, sometimes you hate it, but there's an overall theme, and I'm sure that you can point that out. What was done once before is being done once again. And if they continue to control what we teach our kids in the school system, these things will continue to happen over and over and over again, because nobody will know that it happened before.
Right.
I did not know about the Lavender Scare until recently. I, a historian who has studied history in the United States, this is my time period, American history from World War II all the way to the Clinton administration. That is my bread and butter. Knew nothing about this. I knew about the discrimination against the LGBTQ plus community. I had no idea that there was a Lavender Scare that equaled the Red Scare. And I guarantee the majority of the people that are listening to this who are not in the LGBTQ plus community, or some who might also be in the LGBTQ plus community, did not know about the Lavender Scare.
Yeah. It's and to see it repeated again on a very similar scale it should be very alarming to everyone, because what the Lavender Scare did and what the Secretary of War is trying to do is remove protections and oversight mechanisms, right? Like the Lavender Scare depended on removing due process safeguards for employees, right? And Hegseth is proposing changes, you said this, to how complaints are processed. He's reducing anonymous reporting, expanding commander discretion, revising definitions of what bullying and hazing means. They're removing gender identity as a protected category under the military equal opportunity programs. Like, this is, it's the same thing happening again. And as alarmed as we should have been then, we need to be equally or if not or more so alarmed now.
Join the conversation and follow the Unsolicited Perspectives podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your audio podcasts.